Today, we're going to talk about something we almost never talk about in public. It is something that can dramatically improve our health, our relationships, our creativity, and productivity. I'm talking about the menstrual cycle. Also known as the period. So you're probably thinking, how in the world is that going to change our lives? Well, hear me out. You might be surprised. And gentlemen, listen up. I've got secrets for you too. I'm a biotech engineer and a social entrepreneur, and I have the privilege of teaching in some of the world's top universities. I lecture on social impact in Cornell and Parsons and Columbia University. My life is dedicated to helping companies be more innovative and a force for good in society. It may sound weird, but what I learned about the period actually led me to this work. See, I used to be super ashamed of my period. I actually resisted my femininity completely. As a kid, I was a tomboy, climbing trees and trying to be a tough guy. I dreaded the thought of getting my period, as it would symbolize my womanhood. I would even sleep on my tummy, hoping that the weight of my body would prevent my breasts from growing. Yeah, well, that didn't work. But I still rejected my body and longed to be more like a man. See, I always knew I wanted to make a difference in the world. I wanted to make the world a better place. But the way I went about it was just all wrong. I thought that in order to succeed in a man's world, I had to be fierce, strong, and independent like them. So naturally, I became an engineer, just like my dad, and then worked in the male-dominated tech world. I was working 12-hour days under immense stress and tight deadlines, and I thought that if I slowed down for just 1 second, I'd lose the race. Does that sound familiar? With time, I climbed the corporate ladder. I had a great job and a great title. My bank account was super happy, but I wasn't. I'd won the race, but I'd lost myself. I had severe anxiety, and my body was completely burnt out. But here's what was fascinating. During those crazy years, I almost never got my period. It would kind of appear occasionally, and when it did, it was excruciating, the worst PMS possible. I discovered I had something called polycystic ovary syndrome, or PCOS in short. It's a hormonal disorder, and basically it's a lot of cysts in the ovaries. And it's actually quite common. Around 10% of women have it. The complications of it are brutal. It is the most common cause of infertility. It can also lead to diabetes and heart problems and cancer. I was devastated. I was told there is no cure, but I can take the pill to alleviate the pain. So I thought, instead of treating the problem, we get told to mask the symptoms. Something didn't add up. I knew intuitively my body was trying to tell me something, and that shoving pills down my throat would only kill its ability to communicate. Since the cause of this syndrome is unknown to Western medicine, I set out on a path of learning, and I did eventually cure myself. How? I first did what every sensible person would do. I quit my high-paying job and went traveling around the world. I reconnected to my body through yoga and dancing, through meditation, and loads of time in nature. I spent 10 years studying the biology of the female body and the wisdom of women from ancient times. And here's what I've learned. One of the symptoms of PCOS is an excess of androgens, the male sex hormones. The most common one, which you probably know, is testosterone. And women have it too. It's in charge of our competitive drive and our desire to conquer. And in moderation, it's great. But that's when I realized my body was high on testosterone. Instead of one egg maturing in the ovary every month, about 1,000 of those were trying to be the chosen one, which was creating cysts in my ovaries. Basically, my eggs were acting like sperm. It then dawned on me, this wasn't just about me. This is a cultural phenomenon. Our whole society is programmed to achieve like sperm, being competitive, fast, and goal-oriented with one winner. Everything in our business, education, and economy is like this. For example, how do we measure the success of a business? By the narrow concept of its bottom line. And success at school? With only test scores. And our consumer culture? Well, think of Black Friday, hordes of people fighting for the price. Just like sperm. There had to be another way. So I turned to my source of inspiration, nature. After all, it's done about 3 billion years of research and development, so I trust it. And I came up with this super simple equation. If nature is hardwired to create life, and if sperm on its own cannot create life, then nor can a society that acts like it. Sperm and egg are equally essential. We've neglected the wisdom of the egg. You might be surprised to learn that the egg is actually not passive at all. It attracts and actually chooses the sperm. It beams with so much power, and millions of sperm respond to her call. See, nature's cycle is the ultimate formula for creation. All of life comes from that. Are you ready to unlock her wisdom? The monthly menstruation cycle is very much similar to the seasons of the year. First, we have winter. In this stage, women bleed. This is like an inner death making space for the new. Women are often hypersensitive on those days, but it's also when we're crazy intuitive. Use this time to slow down and go inward. The next stage of the menstrual cycle is a lot like spring. This is when a new egg matures in the ovary. The days become longer and brighter. The trees blossom, and nature is filled with abundance of colors and textures. The next stage is very much like summer. It's the fertile time. Nature is at its climax, and so are women. We are at our creative peak. We look and feel more attractive, and our sex drive is high. The last stage is very much like autumn. If the egg isn't fertilized, the body once again prepares for the bleeding. We may become more agitated and sensitive, but this is the time to decide what no longer serves you and what you're letting go of. In ancient times, women lived in sync with the moon. They would ovulate on the full moon and bleed on the new moon. They were considered to be portals of nature's wisdom and were worshipped for that. During the new moon, they would retreat to a communal space where they would support each other and thank Mother Nature for the cycle. They were considered to be wiser on those days, and when they came out, people would visit them for advice. Today, on the other hand, the period is considered dirty and shameful. Instead of honoring the cycle and resting, we're taught to push through and keep running, just like sperm. Entire industries are built on this notion. Take a painkiller, use a tampon, and keep running. Tampon ads show pictures like these all the time. Girls at the peak of their periods get told to play on, go hard, and do anything possible to hide their period. This is so incredibly sad and all wrong. You see, to have both productivity and creativity requires the speed and focus of the sperm and the receptivity and discernment of the egg. Truth is, no matter where you are on the gender spectrum, we all have both masculine and feminine qualities. And the solution is to integrate them. So how do you use this wisdom to create better businesses, creative projects, or healthier relationships? Men, are you still with me? Here are 3 practical keys, the 3 R's. Number 1, rest. This may sound counterintuitive, but rest is a power move. Athletes know this. Our muscles build while we rest, and so does the brain. You know those problems that seem impossible at night, but totally solvable in the morning? Sometimes the best way to go is to stop. Number 2, release. The hardest thing for us is to let go. We've been taught to fear death and avoid it at all costs. But the cycle teaches us that for the new to be born, the old needs to die. And don't be tempted to feel that emptiness with a bigger project or another partner. Feel the pain of that ending and know that from that void, something new will emerge. Number 3, receive. Being receptive, allowing things to come to us, and choosing the right option requires mastery. Be that egg. Put your creations out there and trust that things will come to you. So now, after 10 years of practicing rest, release, and receive, my life has completely changed. My testosterone levels are balanced. My period is regular. And the cysts in my ovaries have completely disappeared. Remember I was told there is no cure? Being the dreamer that I am urged me to think of how can we use this wisdom to create a better society. Imagine schools where kids learn to tap into their intuition, or boardrooms where leaders express their ideas for drawing and dancing. Imagine if your boss gave you a vacation every time you needed to make a big decision. How great is that? The good news, it's already emerging. Some schools now send kids to meditation instead of detention. Another example is that Stanford University has an entire design school dedicated to teaching executives empathy and playfulness as tools for success. The incredible results this journey had on my body inspired me to bring this knowledge back to where it all started, the business world. So I founded a company that empowers business leaders with creativity and intuition by integrating the principles of rest, release, and receive. We move our clients from a scarcity approach of only one winner to knowing that the cycle assures us of another chance. We found out that by focusing on the positive social impact of the company, it often becomes more profitable. And if sales teams are measured by the quality of their authentic relationship with clients, they hit their targets more easily. In just 2 years of our work, we've trained hundreds of employees with this new mindset. One manager of a Fortune 500 company told me that after 2 weeks of incorporating these principles, he was overwhelmed with the brilliant solutions that he had. His thinking was richer and so much more creative. See, it's a new paradigm. And whether it's big business, or schools, or you and your partner, or you and yourself, honor the wisdom of nature's cycle. Embrace the drive of the sperm. rest, release, and receive like the egg. Because by tapping into nature's formula for creation, who knows what we can achieve? The sperm and the egg have learned since the dawn of time to collaborate. Now it is our time to do the same. Thank you.